Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Uglies. Now, in a minute, we're going to get into who the uglies, because we'll all be claiming we're bad or we're the good. I'm not sure that any of us want to claim that we're actually the uglies, but we might get into that in a minute. First of all, let's welcome everybody to the show. So, as you know, I'm Nick Buckley, and then we have Ash. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, Buckley Preston Journalist. Pleasure to be here.
Craig?
Hi there, Craig Houston. I'm an addict to podcasting on YouTube.
David?
Well, hi everybody. I'm from Hot Takes, and I tell you what, I'm claiming to be the bad one because I'm the only one who's been arrested.
Well, I was giving that some thought, and I thought to myself, well, it's obviously who the baddie is, and that's you because you're the only one who's been locked in a cell recently for putting stuff on YouTube. And then I was thinking, well, who's the good and who's the two uglies? So, first of all, does anybody think they're the good out of the four of us?
Well, I'll take it. I'm not being the ugly.
Craig, it's me and you then, pal. It's me and you. We're the uglies.
I've been called worse, to be honest, Nick. I can cope with that. I think this skin is very thick. We're okay.
Yeah, I mean, just like the three of yous, the things I've been called this last couple of years, I'll actually take ugly. Ugly now is a part compliment for things I'm called all the time. So this is our first episode. Hopefully we'll do more of these. With four of us talking, I've picked one topic, a topic that I think is really important this week, and that's the Labour Party, and that's Jess Phillips. Jess Phillips is the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls. She stood up in Parliament yesterday or the day before, I forget which day it was now, to announce that the crap inquiries she was funding, 5 of them across the country, to look at child sexual exploitation in some of our towns, which were going to be crap inquiries anyway. She's now actually watered it down and said, well, you don't have to do an inquiry if you don't want to. You can still have the £1 million, spend it on victims, spend it on this, spend it on that. So they're not even going to provide us now with crap inquiries into the grooming gang. Well, not grooming gangs, it's grooming rape gangs. Can Labour sink any lower? And is Jess Phillips, can she last any longer? Let me jump straight to David. What's your hot take on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem with Jess Phillips is, of course, her constituency. She's got such a tiny minority, a tiny majority, rather, in a very strong minority ethnic area that she really can't afford to upset her constituents, because she knows if she does, she's gone and she's out. And I think the real reason she's trying to avoid all of this is personal fear at the prospect of having to go and get a real job, because once she's gone out of politics, who the hell is going to employ her? She sits there, she's an obnoxious woman at best. She has that sneer on her face. She's very belittling, and she's like so many of these socialists now, millionaire, but tries to be down with the kids, and yet it's the very kids that she's down with that she is absolutely throwing under the bus. And it is horrific, I think, that, you know, the sheer cynicism of the woman about what she's doing, you know.
Well, when things don't make common sense, it's normally because there's something in the jigsaw puzzle that we don't know. And anybody with the right mind would suggest that having an inquiry would be a good thing. There's no normal person in the United Kingdom would think it's a bad thing. So the fact that they've not only said at one point they would do it, but now they're turning 180 degrees does not make for common sense. It's not logical. So that means there's something that we don't know. And I'll guarantee you what it'll be. There'll be somebody somewhere that's connected if this was to go forward. And I'm sick of being proven correct with these things, because not that long ago, I thought the United Kingdom was better than these two big countries that you see all around the world, where you have, people taking bungs and etc. But I'm no longer prepared to accept that the United Kingdom, for some reason, is immune to these things. We've seen it in America with the US aid, where politicians, civil servants, etc., all making plenty coin from something on the take. And I cannot accept any longer that we are immune from that sort of behaviour as a nation. And this is just another, it's the same with immigration. We've created an industry, people make money, there's millionaires and billionaires being produced because of that industry. And people don't want to lose their wealth. And I think this is a similar thing, but people would just lose their credibility. And I would not be shocked and stunned if that's the truth behind it, that they've realised that there'll be so many people in the establishment or close to the establishment that it makes no sense for them now to highlight that.
I agree. Ash?
Yeah, what really annoys me about Jess Phillips is that she's the self-proclaimed defender of women's rights. She's the warrior. She'll defend women against, domestic abuse and all that. But all of a sudden, when it, as either David or Craig said, when it comes down to her constituency and getting a few votes in, all of a sudden, she's not that bothered. You want to put that to the side. And the way she sits there, it looks like a scruff bag and wears no makeup or anything. She doesn't even look like a minister of the crown. And that's because she wants to say, look at me, I'm from a council estate and all this stuff. When, as someone just said correctly, we know she's a millionaire. We know she has absolutely no roots anymore with the working classes of this country, and she doesn't care. And you know what? If she really does believe in defending women's rights, etc., she wouldn't be giving these statements out. She'd resign out of principle. But of course, she's not going to, is she? She's, I've said this with you before, Nick. She is just one of Starmer's female human shields. And I think it was yesterday she was thrown under the bus so fast you wouldn't believe, because Yvette Cooper started the media rounds by saying, yeah, we're redirecting these funds, like, so many million to each council, and they can do their own inquiries if they want to. By the time Yvette Cooper had finished that media round, either she laid one in her pants and could see this was all going wrong, or somebody had contacted her from head office, because she was then saying, oh, no, these inquiries are still going ahead. But then Jess Phillips still gave that statement inside Parliament before recess started. So something doesn't make sense here, and somebody is lying.
I've worked with many women like Jess Phillips, and I describe Jess Phillips as a gobby cow. Now, I don't mean that necessarily in a derogatory manner, because I've worked with many gobby cows who got things done, who scared people above them, who got councillors doing what they needed to be done. And you need women like that in society, because they're the opposite of a strong physical man, because they're strong verbally. And I take my hat off to women like that who can get things done by the power of their voice. And that's how she always came across when she was in opposition. I'm going to do this for women. This isn't good enough. And even though I didn't necessarily like her, I knew what she was saying and agreed with her. But suddenly she's in power. She's got her hands on the levers of power. And there's no difference between her and all the Tory ministers that went before her, even though she's a Labour minister. How she hasn't resigned over principle, I've got no idea. And the only answer is what we've discussed. It's because she's on, 150 grand a year, good pension, ministerial car, and she's been told by Keir Starmer and other people, toe the party line, otherwise you're out. So she's having to toe the party line. I would rather her resign on a matter of principle. At least that would push forward the agenda of protecting our children in society. Now, David, you said something that we all know to be true. Labour have never wanted to tackle this, because the main perpetrators of the grooming rape gangs were Pakistani heritage males, Muslim males in this country. Some born here, some not born here. And that's a block vote that Labour heavily rely on to get into power. So they've not wanted to tackle it because of that. But there's also something that no one ever talks about. And I think this actual issue could bring down, not this Labour government, but bring down the Labour Party forever. I think it could destroy the party. If we found out Labour councillors were involved in raping children, when we find out that Labour councils, well, we all suspect there was a cover-up, but if we discover there was a conspiracy to cover this up, this could be the end of the Labour Party. That's why no one ever wants to look into it. Craig, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think that's another possibility with a high probability of being right. That and it ties in with what I'm saying. It's just to protect people. And if they feel it could affect their party, then that would make sense. And the jigsaw puzzle suddenly fits. You think, well, why? And it's a 180-degree thing that if they'd said all along there was no reason to have one, then you could probably look at other reasons for why they didn't want one. But the fact they'd promised the public one, and to be fair, the public are crying out for this. But as usual, it's the victims that become victims all over again, because it's them that will get. I mean, we can just be upset, but I think it's safe to say none of our daughters or family were victims of this. And people always quite easily forget about the victims. It's fine in day one when the trial's there, but in day two when the trial's away and the cameras are stopped pointing at people, they forget the victims. And we don't know how many there is. There could be thousands, tens of thousands, who are not going to get anywhere near justice or closure because of this decision.
Staying up to date with events around the world can be difficult, where it's impossible to consult a single source for the full story. Narratives that shape public opinion often just reinforce media and corporate-backed vested interests. It's hard to know what information to trust. See what the media is exaggerating, sensationalising, over or under reporting. That's why I've been using Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that combines news from around the world in one place so you can compare coverage. For every news source, you can see if it has any political bias, how reliable the reporting is, and who owns them. They even have a blind spot feed that highlights news disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. Take a data-driven view on the news and stay current. Get news from thousands of sources worldwide in one place. I've been using Ground News to help me get all the world's news in one place and give a more balanced opinion on what we read and viewing who is telling us the truth and who isn't. Subscribe via my link to get 40% off the Vantage subscription. It's the one I use to get unlimited access to every feature. Your subscription can not only help my channel, but also help Ground News, as it makes the media landscape more transparent.
I think we'll find it's hundreds of thousands of girls over the last 40 years have been raped. I've spoken and worked with a handful of survivors of the grooming gangs scandal from Rochdale and across Manchester, Greater Manchester. And one thing they all say to you, or they've said to me when I've asked them certain questions, when I ask them, what is it you wish for? And the answer is always the same. I wish I wasn't a victim in the first place. And we've still not come to terms with trying to find a solution to this and end it. We're always talking about how we're going to punish the perpetrators and how we're going to punish the politicians who covered it up. We never have the conversation about how we're going to end this crime forever. Ash?
The solution's fairly simple to me, isn't it? I mean, similar to what Rupert Lowe said. If somebody wasn't born here, or they've got dual citizenship, you can deport those people. Now, if somebody was born here and they're a British citizen, sadly, that piece of scum will have to stay in this country and get life or something like that. They'll have to go away and never come back. You're absolutely right about it. This could properly bring Labour down. How long are these people going to go out and keep making statements for Starmer? Because that's all they're doing. They're just covering his back, aren't they? I saw a piece in the Daily Mail and it said that the headline was Starmer is as guilty as anybody else for all this grooming gang stuff. And it is. And a fish rots from the head down, doesn't it? He's supposed to be leading this party. He's the one that's supposed to be, the moral compass. Try not to laugh. Starmer trying to be the moral compass of the Labour Party, telling them where to go and what to do. But he's not, is he? He just sends, for some reason, it's always women. He just sends the women out to take the flak, use them as his bodyguards so that he can get away with doing absolutely nothing. Polling shows that Jess Phillips is well on course to lose her seat. Polling shows that Wes Streeting is well on course to lose his seat to a Muslim independent in is it Essex, where Wes Streeting is. And let's not forget, anybody inside London wants to watch out for these independent Muslim votes as well. Starmer lost 50% of his own majority at the last election. and still won the election. So it just goes to show that these people will do anything, and they will put votes before the rights of young girls or women or whoever it may be, and that's all they're bothered about. We know Starmer wants to be a 2-term prime minister, and personally, I don't think he's got a hope in hell, but he wants to be a 2-term prime minister, and he hasn't got a prayer. And what they're doing now is trying to shore up that core vote, that Muslim vote, and I'm afraid they can't rely on it anymore now. It doesn't work anymore. You've got such concentrations of ethnic minorities, certain areas, that they're willing to vote for these independents rather than voting for Labour. Things have changed a lot, and people aren't as tribal as they used to be.
David?
Right. Well, funnily enough, Yvette Cooper came out today and this morning, and she's trying to do the repair work. And she said that, talking about the pulling back of these investigations, and she's saying it should be a police investigation, that the police are the ones best suited to do the investigations. Well, I'm sorry, but that's very much like marking your own homework, because we know for a fact, not speculation, for a fact, that policemen were involved and were out there and raping some of these children themselves. How on earth can you have a force that's involved with the crime investigating the crime? This should not be a police investigation. This should be a public inquiry headed by a judge with full powers to compel people. And what she's doing there is trying to pass the buck, move it down, move it away from government. Move it away from government to try and distance the Labour Party from the problem. Now, we know if the police were involved and the police were covering up, which again, we know for a fact, not speculation, we know for a fact they were, the police are controlled by politicians, not your sergeants, not your constables, but your chief constables and the superintendents and above sort of thing. It's all political. And they would not have done the things they did without political backing. And we know all these things all happened in Labour areas. And of course, that's why Labour want to push that away and go, oh, we don't want to know. We don't want an investigation. Because some of those people many years ago would have been councillors. Guarantee some of those councillors are now sitting in the House of Commons on the Labour benches. And that's why they're absolutely shitting themselves, to put it bluntly. Because if you get 4 or 5 of them suddenly there and involved and orbiting the Prime Minister, as you say, Labour would be finished. Only this week, of course, we got another one. Was done earlier in the week, wasn't he? And there's just no end to the filth of these people. And so it's not beyond the reason, a reasonable argument to assume that Labour are deeply, deeply involved. We have to know why the Prime Minister himself is a man who said, "Oh, I'm not prosecuting Jimmy Savile," and Harriet Harman, who was the godpiece of the paedophile information exchange. That's who Labour are in the minds of the people. I can't see why people do keep voting for them.
We never have government reports and inquiries to find the truth. We only have government reports and inquiries to give the answer that the government always wanted us to have in the first place. No one can ever think of a report that led to massive change or led to someone going to jail or finding the cause or the person responsible. It's always a 2-3 year cover-up. Does anyone think Jess Phillips can survive this? Ash?
Yep. She's got absolutely no moral compass whatsoever. As long as she's happy enough to pump out Starmer's crap and Morgan McSweeney's crap like this, she will survive. She'll be absolutely fine. I'm not saying she'll get re-elected. I don't think she will anyway, regardless. I think it looks like her core vote, if you will, are going to vote against her anyway, because there'll be some other independent comes along instead. But she will survive till the next general election quite comfortably. These people do inside the party, they know they're there to take the bullets for Starmer. And for some reason, they all seem very, very happy to die on the altar of Sir Keir.
David, do you think she can survive?
While Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister, and as long as she toes the line, then yes. I agree with Ash as well, though. Next election, she's gone. She's finished. But if there's a change of regime and Starmer's out, I think whoever comes in is going to have a change of personnel at all levels. I think there'll be massive changes at the top, because I think whoever comes in has got to basically dissociate themselves from the crowd they've got there now, because they're all toxic. So while Starmer's there, she's safe. If Starmer goes, she's in trouble.
Craig?
I think the majority that the Labour Party have got is so vast that they can basically do what they want. The only thing that would cost you your job, by the looks of it, so far in the Labour Party, is if you punch a constituent or get arrested for abusing children. Anything else is fair game. And I doubt for a minute she's went in to announce that without it being the party's accepted view. It might not even be her that's made the decision. She's just a mouthpiece because of the title she's got. So she's obviously carrying out party instruction from leadership down. So yeah, she's as safe as houses. If anything, we'll be even more loyal to her for carrying out the and not standing down, which, you know, morals are something that everybody talks about, but very, very few people carry out. And that's what morals to me. A lot of people don't even understand me. I have to remind them about my own morals. When I set my own moral compass, I couldn't have stayed in the job. If I went out and told the British public we were going to spend millions of pounds on inquiries for people that were victims of this horrible act, and then I was told a few weeks later to go out and make a public announcement that it wasn't happening, I would walk out of my job. She's obviously not done that, so she's, you know, she agrees with it, financially or not, and because of that, no, she'll be safe as houses.
I have no idea what's going to happen to her. I think you're right, as in she hasn't got the morality to resign. Otherwise, she'd have done it by now. But the majority is so big, and if they know they're probably not going to win their seat again at the next election, why not just hang on for another 3 years and take the money and see what I can do in the next 3 years? Let's change tact on this now. So, as we know, David is the only one who's recently been arrested for freedom of speech. Let's see if we all can get arrested now for this next section of our conversation, which is this. We know the majority of perpetrators are Pakistani heritage Muslim men. There's pedos and perverts in all communities, in all groups of people. We've seen it in church groups. We remember Jimmy Savile. We've just had a news presenter, Hugh Edwards, downloading class A porn, child porn, getting a slap on the wrist. So it isn't that all perverts and pedos don't exist in other communities. They do. But let's look at the British Pakistani community. Why are they overrepresented in this crime? And why are the vast majority of people in that community who are not pedos, why don't they speak out? I can name on my one hand people who speak out from that community. And there's, 2, 3, 4 million of them in the country, and only a handful of people ever speak out. What is up with the British Pakistani community? Let me jump straight back to Craig.
I think they're a minority, that have played their cards really, really well, if I'm perfectly honest with you. They have, you know, a really disproportionate amount of people. If you take the percentage of Muslim in the society and look at the amount of Muslims in key jobs, then we're an absolute blinder. And now we've got a judiciary that's scared to deal with them. We've got sentencing committee who want to deal with anybody the same colour as us for a different set of sentences, although that looks as if it's not going to happen, but that's certainly where we are. We've got the head of education in the United Kingdom now, who's obviously, I wouldn't say he's a fundamentalist, but you know, he's quite I would say, a staunch follower of Islam. We've had up here famous Hamza Useless, who does nothing for his constituency, but wants to, since he stepped down as First Minister, goes on podcasts all over the Arabic-speaking world, telling everybody there how fantastic people like Gaza are and how terrible the Jew is, and they just do what they want. Now, how do we fix that? I think we need to take a pragmatic, common sense approach to it. And when we have a minority, regardless of who that minority is, and I use the example of the gay men as a good example. When I was a kid in the 80s, being a gay man must have been a horrible place to be in the United Kingdom. And then AIDS came along and we blamed them for this thing that I was told at school was going to obviously wipe out humanity. And then they said, well, can we get some rights, please? And they asked to get married for common law, protection, etc., as a minority. And what we done as society is we looked at it, and there was some people not happy with it. They just didn't want it to happen for whatever reasons, for obviously a lot of majority of them, religious reasons. But in a whole, it didn't affect the majority. So this minority had a thing that they wanted to fix. The majority looked at it and said, well, it's not really going to affect us much, so let's do it. But now what we've got a minority who it doesn't matter if it affects the majority. And we see the problem with trans. We're putting men into women's toilets and women's sports. We see the two-tier judiciary we've got. We see a video yesterday or the day before, Aberdeen Council, where they're given guaranteed interviews to even failed asylum seekers, which is actually illegal to give them jobs, but we'll do it anyway because we're a council. So now what we're doing is we're pacifying the minority regardless of affecting the majority. And that's wrong. Society can't do that. You end up with a broken society. And that's why we ended up with violence in the streets in the summer, because the majority felt they were getting led by the minority, and it wasn't for the benefit of the majority. It was that, if we were all neutral with anything that minorities want, then that's fine. But when it affects us, and our kids are not safe, and we feel our society's not safe, and one thing people at Homes are useless bring up, they go, but there was a gang, there was a horrible gang, men and women in Glasgow recently. They were all white, they were junkies, and they get done for abusing kids, and they get really high sentences, quite rightly so. Then you get people at Hamza Yusuf saying, look, white people do it. Yeah, they do. White people are quite bad as human beings in some instances. But we only bring immigrants in, we're told, when we have gaps in our labour market. We've got a skill shortage. Well, that just proves that there's one shortage we've not got, and that is a shortage of people who are white, British people that are bad to kids. So it's dead simple. We don't need any more of them. We don't have a shortage. We've got plenty of our own. So that is just, of course, we should deal with them differently. The ones that do it in their country, that are British citizens, should go to jail for a long, long time. And if you're not a British citizen, you should go back from whence you came.
Completely agree. Ash?
Yeah, so we have a problem because it's a cultural problem, isn't it? It comes from Pakistan itself. Now, some of these people may not have been born in Pakistan, fine, but they may come from that heritage, and they're brought up by parents or grandparents, etc., who have come from that background. And up until recently, it wasn't even an offence in Pakistan to commit these crimes against children. But now they've realised that the problem is so endemic in the country that they've had to bring in now separate offences to protect children in the country. These people don't, maybe it's not all, but these people don't see, white Western girls as equals. They don't see them as having rights. Some of them don't even see women of their own culture as having rights. They're just, a toy to be used when you need to use it and then discarded. That's how they see women. They're not even second-class citizens to some of these people. So is it any wonder when they come to this country, they start treating women like dirt, to put it mildly, like they do here, or treating children like dirt, like they do over here? And I'm afraid it does come back to the immigration point, where you're letting people into the country, and whether that's legally or illegally, we simply don't know who they are. Sometimes we don't know where they've come from. We don't know what their backgrounds are, what their criminal records are, if they have one. And then you let them loose on the streets. And is it any wonder that Britain is starting to look more and more like a third world country every single year, when you're allowing maybe 1 million plus people from God knows where to come over here that don't care about the country, don't want to know about our culture, don't integrate into Britain in any way, shape or form, and just want to live their own ghettoized lives, for want of a better word, living in their own little communities, and then nobody speaks out against them, probably for a combination of the fact that they don't see anybody else outside their own little community anyway, and secondly, probably through a little bit of fear as well, because if some Pakistani women went to the police and said, look what these guys are doing, they'd probably get the wrath as well. So there's probably a bit of that as well, a bit of fear in there as well.
David?
I'm actually agreeing with Ash with the fear thing, but I'm going to actually suggest that maybe there's fear the other way as well. Because they've ghettoized and they have these areas, now even the police are afraid to go into some of these areas. Now, I used to live in Luton, very, very high Asian population. Well, in certain parts of the town anyway, very Irish as well in certain parts. But I knew second and sometimes third generation who could still barely speak English, or if they did, had very, very Pakistani accents. And you're thinking, you've been here, your parents have been here, your grandparents have been here. Why can't you speak the language of this country? And the culture has passed them by as well. They will not integrate. They've come here and expect us to bend to them instead of them bending to us. And I would suggest that if you come to a country, you accept its history, its heritage, its culture. And if you can't accept that, please feel free to leave. You're not forced to stay here. And if you hate a country so much that you don't want to accept its culture, then find another country with where you can be more comfortable. Because these people are obviously very uncomfortable with our culture. They don't like our freedoms. They don't like the way our women can walk and talk and express themselves and have opinions. And it is cultural. And it's not religion. The religion, it's weird. If you can't say it's Muslim, because if you go and see, for example, Chechen Muslims are different from Moroccan Muslims. I sat in Morocco in a bar with Muslims drinking beer. There's all these different, I suppose you could call it flavors of Islam in the same way as different flavors of Christianity. But what they've got in this particular one, it's a cultural thing, not a religious thing. And their culture, you get these people who say, but all cultures are equal. I'm sorry, but no, that's clearly not true. Some cultures are better than others. And I would suggest cultures where you don't abuse children is a better culture than one where it's accepted. And that is just the truth. Now, if I get another knock on the door over that, so be it. But I'm not telling the lie here. I'd rather live in a culture where children weren't abused than one where they were. And one only has to look at the way certain groups, women, are treated. And the one that really gets me, that makes me laugh, you go down to Trafalgar Square and you get the big marches, all Palestine marches, and you get gays for Palestine. Please, go to Palestine. Just go. Be a one-way journey, but go. Gays for Palestine. Stand there in Gaza and go, gays for Palestine. Wish you luck.
We all know that to be true. If the gays went to Palestine, they would be doing one-day courses of flying off car park roofs. That's what would happen to the gays and the queers if they ever went to Palestine. Now, you said something, both you and Ash said something about culture. That's the problem here. See, most people have never done any traveling. Most people don't do much reading, and we think people are the same all over the world. And to a certain extent, we are the same all over the world to a certain extent. But within that similarity are some huge differences. So what we don't understand about people from Pakistan is Pakistan's very tribal. So you live in your clan and everything is about your clan, your family in your clan. And they have a saying, I think it's the Middle East, it's me, my brother against my cousin. It's me, my cousin against the world, because it's clan-based. So therefore, my nuclear family I will protect. Then I'll protect my extended family, and everybody else outside that is a stranger, and I don't care. So in Pakistan, clans are fighting other clans and don't trust other clans, even though they're next door to each other. And in Pakistan, children are raped, women are raped. We see it on social media all the time, same as India. This isn't just necessarily a Pakistani problem.
No, it's a cultural problem, not a religious problem.
Yes, I mean, religion then adds some problems on top of that, but religion isn't the problem per se. During the Pakistani civil war between East and West Pakistan, which then became Bangladesh, there was organized rapes of Bangladeshi women. They used it as a tool of war. That was investigated by the UN. People went to jail. Hundreds of thousands of Bangladeshi women were raped It was preached in the mosques in Pakistan about that's what we should do. We need to punish these women. So we've allowed people to emigrate here, but then our mistake was we never then said, now you need to integrate. You can keep your religion, you can keep some of your cultural practices, but apart from the color of your skin, we should never know that you're different to us. And we never did that. We allowed them to build their own little areas, their own ghettos. And next thing you know, after a couple of decades, we had little Pakistan, we had little Somalia, we had little this, little that. And there's no need for them to change, to learn English, to integrate, to do anything. They're living in their own little enclaves. And we're in so much trouble at the moment because of this. Craig?
I think it's how would you behave if you went abroad? And I think any of the four of us, if we decided we didn't want to live in the United Kingdom for whatever reason and went abroad, you would try and fit into the society that's welcoming you. And when you factor in, we would be doing it through our own free will if we just decided to leave the United Kingdom. And we would treat our new home with respect. I kind of don't understand why people who are coming here because they feel it's a better proposition, they're safer or it's more advanced, and can't show that respect. I'm at a loss. I'm not the type of guy that when I go abroad on my holiday, the first thing I need to do is try and find an English pub and somewhere that does a Sunday roast. I don't do that. I try and find a local, delicacy and things like that to enjoy when you're abroad. But when you come here, it doesn't fit with me that you want to change everything to make it like the place you've just left. And if you came here as an asylum seeker or for fear of your own safety, I'm kind of lost. The weather's better in most of these countries folk came from. So if Britain's that bad, why did you come? I don't get it. And nobody will stop you from leaving. That's not how it works. So nobody's here under duress. But no, you can't go. And I wouldn't go to America or Portugal or Singapore and try and turn that into Glasgow. That's not how it works. But it's how it's got to work here, and it's wrong.
Because it's a free-for-all, isn't it? That's what's happening. They're being told when they come over here, you don't have to assimilate. You don't have to try and integrate into Britain.
Preston, we've got a guy who was arrested. There was one just the other day in the region. Well, he comes from Norway. I'm not sure if he's Norwegian, get caught with guns. But there was one a few months before that. And this guy's defence was, I didn't know that I wasn't allowed a handgun in the UK. And when you come from a society where you've been married and consummating a marriage to someone that's a child, and that's accepted, that's normal. Marrying your cousin is the sort of first choice for people, not the abnormal option. But when you come from those sorts of societies, is it any wonder they don't even know what the age of consent is? And when we get here and we want to make them feel most welcome, that we need to plaster Eid posters all over our city centres and we need to open our doors at football stadiums and all that to celebrate Eid Mubarak, which I don't really understand, then is it any wonder that they think, well, it's just the same as the place I came from? So see that schoolgirl at 14, there was a Scottish guy up at court today, he got caught by the police trying to pay for sex with a 14-year-old. And he'd be like, well, if that's from his society was acceptable and other things in his society are getting accepted over here, then why would he think he's doing anything wrong? It's crazy.
Ash, do you want to jump back in there?
Well, I completely agree with Craig. It's right. But yeah, they don't know the rules of this country, maybe. They're not learning the language. As I just said, they're not assimilating with our culture. It's coming over here and completely knowing you're going to get a free ride. Look, we're having people being able to stay in the country because their kid doesn't like chicken nuggets in Albania or something. There is absolutely no way you're going to get deported. And they know that. They can do what they want. And they don't tell us, for example, what crimes are being committed by nationality in this country. They won't tell us. Even if it's illegal immigrants committing crime, they won't tell us how many crimes are being committed by these people. And they are working, they're working in the black economy. I can give you a first-hand example of, I won't name the company, one of these food delivery companies actually have illegal immigrants working for them. That's no shop, but selling narcotics while they're doing it. Like, this is going on all over the place. There's the black economy. You've got these vape shops. You've got the Turkish barber shops. You've got everything. It's almost a parallel society, if you will, to to the rest of Britain, that's running completely underneath the rest. And look at how much the NHS is spending on translators. Look at how much the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions, spends on translators for people to be able to claim benefits. They know they can come over here, get the benefits, get a hotel, get a trip out to some football stadium for a day. There's a mosque down the road, or wherever you're from, if you're Christian, I suppose there's a church down the road, whatever you may be. But you can just come here, you don't have to work, you get it all free off the state, all off the back of the British taxpayer. And you've basically got nothing to do, I don't think, apart from either behave illegally, earn money illegally, or just practice your own culture. And that this is why Windrush was a success, for example, or the generations that came over after World War II to help us rebuild the country, because they were all told to integrate, and they did, and they were all fine. They were keen to integrate into British society, and now we've imported such numbers that it would probably be pretty impossible to actually make these people integrate anyway, because because of the sheer size, the sheer levels, of immigration into the country. How do you get that many people to all assimilate at one time? But they've allowed this mass migration experiment to continue probably from Blair onwards, shall we say, and it's been a complete and utter disaster for this country, and it's only getting worse.
And that makes me think of this question. If everything you said then is true, can we blame these people for coming here and taking advantage and taking the free hotels, the free money, raping our women, acting like they still live in the third world? Because not only do we allow them to come here, we allow them to do what they want to do. And at the same time, we have politicians and liberal people going, do what you want, we're open, we're compassionate, Islamophobia is everywhere. So it's not that you're doing things wrong, it's that the white people here are Islamic phobic and they're picking on you. And you wonder why these people don't integrate and don't change their behavior. Because even our Prime Minister tells them, you're doing nothing wrong. It's us that's doing something wrong by picking on you. David?
Yeah, I mean, actually, before I answer that, I just want to raise a point that has been raised earlier very quickly, is the fact that they're not telling us about the crimes. I think it was actually said this. Well, the whole of the Southport riots came because of a vacuum of information. There was no information put in. Nobody was saying anything. And so it was all speculation. And the same thing is going to happen now. When we see the crimes, we know the crimes. We're asking the government what's going on, and they're refusing to answer. So you're going to get that vacuum again. And that, nature abhors a vacuum. So it will be filled, and it will be filled with, like I say, speculation, with accusations. And it's another example of why a government needs to tell people what's going on. Otherwise, there'll be more riots. Now, as to the culture of not integrating, and I think that one of the problems is you've got this fear. There's this massive fear by the establishment that if they tell people to integrate, if they tell people that's not acceptable, we must do this, you've got to do this, you can't do that. They've got this fear that, we're going to be seen as racist. When actually what they're actually doing is creating worse lives for the people coming over and worse lives for the people who are already here. They've got to go in. They've got to say, this is unacceptable. You can do that. If you want to do that, you go back home and do it. You don't do it in this country. And when we do catch these people doing it, they've got to be given incredibly harsh sentences. The sort of sentences that you or I would get. Not, he didn't know. Because ignorance is not a defense in law. I don't give a shit if that's normal in your country. Here's the thing. You ain't in your country. These are the rules here. Obey them. And now go to jail and then straight away thrown out. Choice. But depending on whether you're born here or not. If you're a British citizen, you go to jail. And if you're not, you're out. And it's as simple as that. And you don't spend time wasting time going, and look, here's 300 years of British law. Go and learn it. You just straight away, bang. Because the next thing is, everybody in that culture knows, oh shit, we can't do that. My mate Abdul did that, and he was back out and back into his village. His feet didn't touch. Start doing that and doing it and doing it. And the police have got to grow an absolute huge pair of balls and start going into these no-go zones and saying there ain't no such thing as a no-go zone in this country. And if it does mean bringing back something like the SPG from the 80s, so be it. Send in the big protected wagons. Send in the big boys with big boots and big sticks. And then sort out what's going on. Don't kowtow. We've got to have order in this country, or this country will fail.
My final question is this. We know this government, this Labour government, will do nothing. That's a given. We're not sure who the next government's going to be. Will it be Tories? Will it be Reform? Will it be a coalition between the two? Will they tackle it? And if they're going to tackle it, what do they need to do to tackle it? I appreciate what you just said then, David, about the people we catch and we arrest, we deport. But to a certain extent, that's dealing with a problem after the horse has bolted, because we've left with a woman now, or a child who's been raped. So we need to deal harshly with the offenders, but how do we prevent this in the first place? Is it being tough on immigration? Is it forced assimilation? Is it deportation of certain communities? What does the next government need to do? Let me go to Craig.
I have absolutely no faith in getting a positive response from your answer, where you asked, would the next government, whether that be Tory or Reform or a combination of the both, sort this problem? And the reason I say that is very simple. Tories had 14 years to solve the problem, and it got worse when they came out as it was when they came in. And it wasn't great when they came in. And then we see who was and should have been the Great White Hope, but is failing at that every single minute he opens his mouth, is Nigel Farage, who's already told us, despite what he said in Birmingham, because it's only half a story, we'll get two problems. We've got the people coming in, that's increasing all the time, and we'll get the people already here, that's increasing all the time. He only wants to sort one problem, and that's the people who are coming here. And he's not got the balls to do anything about the people already here. And he's already told us that. That's not me speculating. That's fact that he's said it. So he talks and he grandstands about, we're going to stop the boats, we're going to stop immigration. Okay. But you've already told us you're not going to deport people that are already here. So everybody, even over the next 4 years that comes into this country illegally, Nigel Farage has told us that he'll do nothing with them. And that's a big problem. And I think I know why he's not wanting to tackle that. And that's a whole hour in itself. So that's probably best left for another day. But I have completely no faith in either two of those parties. Because one of them's already tried it for 14 years, failed miserably, and made the problem worse. And the other one has already told us that he's only going to worry about the ones who are coming in the future. So, no, it won't get better with them. And if we think Reform are going to fix every problem we've got in the United Kingdom, then we need to pay more attention, because evidently they're not.
Craig, you just depressed me.
You asked me a question, I'm not going to butter it up. You asked me a question, I'll give you my honest answer. And if anybody wants to debate that and tell me I'm wrong, then let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Ash, let me go to you.
Yeah, I think, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely sceptical about anybody coming in. I think we can all be pretty confident that Labour will not form the next government after the next election. It will probably have to be a combination of the Tories and Reform if they're going to get a big enough majority to then take the Commons back, and they're going to have to come to some sort of pact. Do I have any faith? As Craig just said, the Tories had 14 years, did absolutely nothing about it. In fact, it got worse. They even sat there under Boris and Rishi, told us the numbers were going down. Then when the figures got released, we had over 1 million plus that came in net into the country, now called the Boris wave, isn't it? Farage, again, it doesn't seem willing to deport anybody. What this guy, he doesn't seem to want to talk about the hotels anymore when previously he did. Now, whether that's because he wants to appeal to a broader voting base, I don't know. Is it because Zia Yusuf's in the party? I don't know. But certainly he's had a lurch, not necessarily much to the left, but certainly a bit more of a liberal stance on immigration all of a sudden, and really forgetting what got Reform to the point where they are at the moment. And that's because they were a little bit different to the establishment parties, and now Reform seems to be very keen to get along with these to get on with the establishment, to get on with the mainstream media. And but I contrary to Craig, I actually think we do need to give Reform a chance. And let's see if they will actually do something when they get in. Because, you know, how many decades have the Labour and Tories exchanged government now? It's just gone on, and the situation has got worse. The country's got worse. Nothing's improved for your average Brit in this country, apart from, you know, the only thing that's going up is our taxes constantly. So I think we do need a fresh party. And if that fresh party is Reform, that's going to maybe do something, they might not, they might fail. But if they at least say they're going to do something, I'm willing to give them that chance, because I'm sick to death of voting Tory or watching Labour destroy this country.
David?
Well, what makes me laugh is when you get all these lefty parties and they all look at, say, the Tories and Reform and call them, oh, the far right. They are not the far right. But unless something is done, there will be, I think, a rise of a far right party. Now, one of the things I saw the other day was someone talking about Nick Griffin. If you remember, he was about 10, 15 years ago. He was the one-eyed wanker, they used to call him, and all that. And he was saying things then that most mainstream people will be like, they'd be appalled. Oh my God, you can't say that. Oh, look at that. The thing is, as time's gone on, you actually listen to some of the things he said then, those views are now becoming more mainstream. Now, I'm not saying I agree with him or anything, but there's a lot more people who would be more, you know, agreeable to his views today than they were sort of 10, 15 years ago. Now, these lefty parties, like I say, calling Reform far right, would be absolutely cacking themselves if a true far right party emerged. Now, we're seeing all over Europe, the right are rising. You've got Meloni in Italy. You've got the right in Holland. You've got the Netherlands. You've got AfD in Germany, and so forth. All these right parties are rising. We don't really have a party of the right in this country. The Tories have moved from right to centre, and Reform is really only just centre right. If a far right party did emerge, I have a feeling it would do very well in this country, but the result after it, if it ever did get power, I think would be pretty damaging. But you don't know how people are going to think. But the trouble is, the sleeping giant is waking up, and your sort of average Joe in the street, who for years has just gone Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Green, whatever. They are waking up and they are seeing the problems, they're seeing the crime, they're seeing the awfulness of the situation, and they're starting to get angry. And that, of course, is where the far right will rise.
Completely agree. Gentlemen, thank you a lot for coming along today. Let's hope this does well, and let's hope we can do it again. I think let's just do some closing statements. My closing statement is quite short, which is this: a country that allows its children to be raped and abused has no future. And I worry about this country, because that's exactly what we're allowing. We allow the rape and abuse of our children, and far too many people turn a blind eye. Far too many people make excuses for it. Far too many people blame the children involved. And this has been going on for decades. We've all known about it for at least 15 years, but it's been going on 40 years, and we've still not stopped it. This country is in serious trouble. Craig, last words?
See, that's here. Anybody that has one of these should be the priority for our country, and it should be a priority for our parliaments and our governments. And that, if you're in America and you've got an American one of these, or you're in Bulgaria, well, Bulgarian one, that should be your country's priority. Number one, first and foremost, and forever. But it's not. And that's where we need to get back to. We need our sovereignty back. I don't have a magic wand. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how we get there. But we just need to have faith in the good British people, the good British public. We can fall out. We can have differences of opinion. But at our core, we are the same people, regardless of the four that are in this are all from different parts of this United Kingdom. And we just need more people to take an interest. The system is bad, but the people that are in the system make it worse. So the first thing we can do is change the people. and we need to vote for people, whether it's local level or national level, that will put these people first.
Here. Let's go to the good. Ash, you're the good.
Yeah, going back to what David said, I honestly believe we are another Southport away from riots. And I'm not encouraging it. I wouldn't say to people, go out and riot or anything like that. I don't believe in that. But we are teetering on the edge. A lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are very unhappy. And when people's rights are taken away, like they are being in this country, your right to free speech, even your right to post on social media, eventually, there's only one way those people express their views. They don't have a platform like we can on here, for example. They will go out on the streets and riot again. And just because they put a few people behind bars, next time, they could be twice the size, 3 times the size. So tying into what Craig said now, you've got to put the British people first. And unfortunately, our politicians don't. Labour haven't, Tory haven't for so long now. And that's what's got to change. And I would just say to anybody, if on a side note, if anybody wants to see Jess Phillips, who we talked about earlier, get eviscerated, go and watch a pretty unknown Tory MP's speech yesterday in the Commons by Katie Lamb. Absolutely fantastic.
Final words from the bad boy of podcasting on YouTube. That's the Sliver Fox. He's our version of Nelson Mandela. They lock him up, but he gets out, and he could end up being Prime Minister. So final words, David.
Well, to quote someone else, we are lions led by donkeys. And wouldn't it be great if the people of this country stopped voting for these useless, knackered donkeys and voted for some lions instead?
I couldn't disagree with that whatsoever. For people watching, if you like any of the 4 of us on here, go in the description of the video. All our links are there. Go subscribe to all our channels and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this one-off podcast. Should we do it again? Was it interesting, or did we bore the life out of you? But thanks, Ash, David, Craig, for coming along, and I'll catch up with you all again soon.
Thanks all. See you later.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Cheerio, bye now.
Everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.